what we experience is people get super defensive when they've not done this. And it's like, I don't, that doesn't work for me. So then they just ex-nay it all together as if like that's not possible. Right. And I just want to push back on that. There is a way for this to be, for you to receive the gift. And I think that's all it is. Ask the Lord, like Holy Spirit, like how are we to receive this as a gift?
You are listening to the Famous at Home podcast with Dr. Josh and Christi Straub.
Because when it's all said and done, we all want to know that we were famous at home. Welcome back to the Famous at Home podcast. Today we are jumping into a conversation on Sabbath. Before we do, here's a word from our sponsors. Hey everybody, Josh Straub here with Famous at Home. We want to introduce you to the Famous at Home Starter Bundle. This is something we created just for you. All you have to do is click the button to sign up to receive our workbook, 7 decisions to putting your family center stage. You'll also get a feelings chart handout that you can implement with your kids and with your spouse. And you'll also receive the 100 commonly held values worksheet so that you can sit down with your family and discuss the values that you want to set as a family that will provide vision for how and you want to lead your family in the direction that you're going to head in. So you get those 3 things right away as soon as you sign up. In addition to that, we will send to you our top podcast episodes on marriage, parenting, and family, the most listened to and the most foundational for developing emotional connection with your loved ones. You'll also receive past newsletters, our exclusive weekly newsletter. You'll be enrolled to receive that on an ongoing basis. These are real-time newsletters of what's happening in our lives and what we're doing and implementing to be famous at home that we want to give to you, just weekly nuggets to keep us equipped every single week. And then you'll also receive the weekly podcast episodes as well. This starter bundle is all free. We want to give it to you. Just click the link to sign up. Welcome back. So, Christi, the last couple of weeks we've had some really good conversations with the Pryors, the Seagos.
I missed the Pryors.
You did. You were sick.
I was sick.
Yeah.
I actually got to be with them, and then we came back the next day and recorded a podcast, and I was sick as a dog.
You were sick.
Yeah. But it was
and we've gotten some great feedback from you guys, which I'm always so grateful for. Like we love that. So, even in the show notes today, like if you have any questions, or you have any topics that you want us to continue talking about, or something you listen to an episode and you're like, hey, that sparks something. Mm-hmm. These next couple of weeks are going to be conversations that we're having on the podcast based on your feedback, based on questions you guys are asking. And so we love it when you do that. So you can go to famousathome.com/podcast. You can submit a question, give us a topic idea, and we would also love your reviews. Wherever you listen to podcast episodes, people use reviews to find out about it and decide if they're going to listen. And so we would love for you to do that. We've got a lot of exciting things coming up with this podcast. I can't even begin to describe how fun this is going to be in the next number of months. And I know I'm dropping some teasers there, but it's we've got some really exciting things. So I'm going to keep teasing it. If you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, you'll start to see maybe some things being teased into the newsletter as well. I had no idea of this, but Christi actually even told me this morning that Taylor Swift does this. I don't know this. That there's
apparently
like teaser things. Like,
I'm not like a Taylor Swift fan.
You're a Swiftie?
I certainly.
Is that what they call them? Swifties?
That is, yeah, 100% what
what
they call them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know the names of songs. Like I recognize some, but I've heard that's what she does is like they tease things like years out. We are not like that. Like I don't even know what to say because I feel so strange not being like being totally forthright, be like, guess what? So like you said that, I was like, I don't even know how to respond. Like I don't know how to say and not be my
excited.
Full self and like tell people. Like, it feels like you're hiding something. We're not hiding something. It's just not the right time to.
Maybe
tell
you could
people
guess.
Yet.
So whether it's on Instagram where we are with Famous at Home,
gosh.
or whether it's on
you didn't even say
podcast,
like what it might be.
I didn't, but maybe people can guess.
I'm sure.
People who listen.
Yeah.
I mean, so the other component of that is we have been, so go leave us a review. Let us know, because these next couple weeks are really about you guys and what you guys are asking us and what you're asking for. And so we're going to do that today with Sabbath, because we have so many questions about Sabbath. What came out of that was the conversation with the priors, but then also we were this weekend, and then even coaching clients. I mean, we've been doing stuff with coaching clients where we're helping them implement Sabbath, and there's a lot of these questions around it. But we were in Lancaster, Pennsylvania this past weekend. It would be 2 weeks now that we were there on Sunday, and
that was a fun event, by the way. It was a great event. For all of you that were there, and that was so fun to meet so many people. So our friends Brooke and TJ from Walk in Love, if you're familiar with Walk in Love, I know we've talked about them before. We wear their clothes a lot.
We don't wear them, we wear their clothes.
Yeah.
That is in the fashion industry what you say.
They say, who are you wearing?
Who are you wearing? That's so weird.
I know, it's so weird.
I'm wearing Jesus in my heart.
But they're awesome. And so they had a marriage event. And so it was just fun because we got to be with like Brooke and TJ. We got to be with the Priors. They spoke as well.
And our friend Brad Ellis.
And it was so fun.
Gem of a human.
Except then the thunderstorm came. They had like torrential downpours. It was when we were speaking once, and it was like the power went out. I'm like,
microphones go out. PowerPoint goes out.
It's like a metal roof on this big building. And so it was
Lights
so
are out,
loud.
and all you hear is rain.
And it's a sold out event. So like people are jam packed in there. So me, like I'm actually getting concerned for people because I'm like, oh shoot, like this is where, because I mean, they're like shoulder to shoulder in these seats, like in this. Anyway,
I didn't even think about other people.
Oh, I'm like, people are, everyone is starting to get activated.
And we just kept talking. We're like, hey, everybody do this.
Well, they got us handheld, like a corded mic to like this little, anyway. And they're like, they can't hear you in the back. Anyway, it was funny, but everyone was so wonderful about it. It was just such a great event.
Christy's leading people through like,
I was literally doing somatic stuff because I was like, I know people are super activated right now. So let's do some of these. So we were doing some like exercises, and because they couldn't hear me. So I'm like, at least you can copy what I'm doing right now. But anyway, it was so fun. The whole point was that this has come up so many times. So at the end, we did a panel with all of us up there. And one of the questions, it was a fabulous question. And it was like, I'll mess it up exactly, but it was basically the effect of, what is one rhythm that you've implemented as a family that you wish you'd implemented sooner? Like it was such a game changer for your family. You wish you'd implemented it sooner. And not everyone got to speak, but I had some people come up to me afterwards and like, cause I didn't share, and they're like, I'd love to hear, like, you didn't get to share. What would you have said? But what was interesting is that almost everyone on the panel said Sabbath.
That they wish they would have started Sabbath sooner. That's the rhythm they would have started.
Yeah, that as a family, that was the thing. And I said I would agree with that for sure, but because everyone else said that, and I'm like, I'm just going to be totally honest. For me, it would be homeschooling, which I know sounds so funny to like 5 years ago me and like 10 years ago me would, because I said I would never homeschool. But part of that for me was this undoing of culture and society and rushing and all the things. So, but the Sabbath thing, we were just working with clients yesterday, and it came up again, Sabbath. And they're like, how do you actually do this? Like, what does this look like? And we're like, this has come up so many times. I really don't know that we've ever talked about it like as an episode. So we're partially recording this so that we can tell people, go listen to this episode if you have questions about Sabbath. Not that we're going to get it all right. Not that there's one right way to do it, but that it's important and it's a commandment. And I think our Western world is it's one of the ones we've just overlooked. We're like, don't murder. Cool. I'm on board with that. Keep the Sabbath. Voluntary.
Yeah.
Only when I want to. And
we just murder people in our brain.
Because slander.
Especially when you're driving down the road and the car, comes right up fast. Yeah. Anyway.
That's you.
Road rage. I don't get road rage. I'm good. I don't want to murder anybody in my brain.
You've gotten so much better with that.
Jesus is working on my heart.
He really has. He's healing you. But back to Sabbath, I just think this is such a helpful conversation because we'll talk about how we do it. Obviously, we've gotten to hear from so many other families, and then mentors, the people that like we've learned so much from, that has helped shape what it looks like for us. Right. But the unique thing is it's meant for you. It's man was made for the Sabbath. Like it's not, the Sabbath is a gift to you. And
yeah, Jesus says in Matthew, Sabbath wasn't, or man wasn't made for Sabbath, Sabbath for the man. And so, I mean,
I just said that wrong then.
It was God's gift that's why I just jumped into it was created for us. So
that.
it was, and just so you know, like one of the things that, like Jesus is working on my heart, like even with the road rage, right? It's like, instead of, a car flies up on me, on my butt and, tailgating me, instead of, slamming on my brakes, now I just slow down a lot slower because I want to teach them Sabbath. Like I want them to slow down. And so I slow down for them and then they go slower. And it's just really good that way.
If drivers are listening, just
so
tell
Jesus
them to
is working in my heart
portion.
Because I'm slowing people down by
I'm sure that was
giving
his
them
intention.
the Sabbath. Yeah. And I'm going to put a bumper sticker on the back of my car that just says, practice the Sabbath. I think that would slow down practice the Sabbath. That'd be good. I just thought of that. It's good. Anyway, so yeah, but so and a lot of this, I mean, I credit Jeremy Pryor. I credit our integrated group for helping us implement this, and we started implementing this a number of years ago. Sabbath is one of those things that we have started practicing as Genesis chapter 1. It was the rhythm that God created after working. It's, he works 6 days, creates, and then on the seventh day he rests. Did God need to rest? No, he didn't need to rest. But what he did was he rested on the very day after he created humans. So what was the very first thing that humans were to do after they were created? It was to rest. And so we are to live from rest, not working for rest. And in our Western, busy, post-industrial revolution culture, there's no time for rest. We've got sports activities. We got X, Y, and Z going on all the time. And so you have to fight for this rhythm. You have to defend it. And we have just seen it bring so much life to our family. We've seen it bring so much life to so many other families that we do life with, that now we're getting a lot of questions about it. And we're saying, hey, okay, so how can we help answer some of these questions? We do write about this in Famous at Home. So if you haven't picked up a copy of Famous at Home, you can do that. We put that in the show notes today. But we talk about how we do this specifically in the book and probably go into more detail in there. But I'll just start with this. So there are certain, and we have a template that we can also make available to you guys. I got this template from Jeremy Pryor as well. It's just a kind of a one-page template for how the Jewish culture will do Shabbat. And so Shabbat is Sabbath in the Jewish culture, and everybody in that culture on Thursdays and early Fridays are rushing to the market. It's frantic pace to get to the market, to get everything, because Saturday, everything is shut down. Saturday is Sabbath in the Jewish culture. So from Friday night sundown to Saturday night sundown is Shabbat. And that is the day of rest. And what's fascinating about it is, and I read this somewhere else recently, and I thought, man, this was a fascinating thought, that in it, that Sabbath in scriptures, it says to either remember the Sabbath or to observe the Sabbath. And there's two different words, observe it or remember it. So everything in the culture is built on the Sabbath. It is the central focus of life and the way that Jewish culture does life. So that the remembering of the Sabbath is like Sunday, Monday, and maybe Tuesday. You're remembering what happened on Saturday, on the Sabbath. To observe it is to begin preparing for it on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday leading up to it. So everything in the Jewish culture is centered on Sabbath. And we have in our home we've begun to do this very thing as well. And so we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to get very practical on what that looks like and how you can implement Sabbath in your home. Here's a word from our sponsors. Hey everybody, Josh Straub here with Famous at Home. I want to introduce you to something if you haven't already seen it. This is our new book, Famous at Home, 7 Decisions to Putting Your Family Center Stage in a World Competing for Your Time, Attention, and Identity. When a couple or a family comes to us and says, hey, Josh, we have a question. What do we do next? We always point to this book. This is our coaching playbook. This is the play-by-play strategies that we use to help families to Be Famous at Home. And so if you have not picked up this book yet, we highly encourage you to get a copy. You can see a link in the show notes. You can click a link right here in the video, and we would love for you to be able to get a copy of this in your hands. If you want to go deeper than the podcast episodes, this is the way to do that. It's our way of walking alongside your family to help you be famous at home. Okay, so I'm going to start with this, and then I'm going to throw to you in terms of your insight on this. But the Sabbath is, so we want to make Sabbath the most memorable part of the week. And so we want our kids to always remember that Sabbath was their favorite day. And so we have to work for, like, you want to work from rest, but you have to work for it too, because it takes work to rest. Because otherwise what we end up doing is we end up defaulting to our normal lifestyle of working and doing things that are exhausting. And so what we're really identifying here, what does it look like, is Shabbat means to cease. It means to stop working, and to stop working from the things that don't bring soul rest. So what we're fighting for is soul rest.
Yeah. And I think, what comes to me is like when people talk about like today me is thankful that yesterday me did this, like whether that's working out, whether that's like prepping a meal, cleaning the house. It's like I'm going to say Sabbath is the day where you can delight in all the things that bring you delight and bring you joy and refuel you and refill you. And you're so grateful that the days leading up, you did the work to prepare for that. So you had it, you had this gift of a day. And in this conversation yesterday, we're meeting with this couple, and I could see it in her. She's type A, similar to me. And I will say, I'm talking about this as if I'm like, I've drunk the Kool-Aid. I'm in the club now, and I am, but I was not before. And to me, Josh is like, we need, I think we should do this. I think we should. And I'm like, cool. Like, I don't know. To me, it was like, sure. Does that mean like we take a nap on Saturday? Does that mean we just like lay around and watch Netflix or something? And I think that's how the enemy has stolen the idea of Sabbath and twisted it into something it is not. And that's what's been so life-giving, is realizing what the Sabbath is and the gift that it is. It's not just laying around and loafing and you're like, oh, I feel purposeless and devoid of joy. It's like, how about we utilize this one day to refill us in every way that we've been emptied out or poured out through the week. So we're recording this on a Friday morning, which we never do, but
right. We never do.
I actually just said to Josh, I was like, do I look awake? And he was, what did you say to me? You're like, not really.
No. I said, you look okay.
You look okay. And I was like, great.
You look okay.
Thank you so much, sweetheart. But I literally feel like my eyes aren't open right now. You're lying. But anyway, wait, we don't usually record on Friday, but it's kind of helpful to tell you that because
you're the apple of my eye, baby.
I love you so much. Okay. So Friday night we do Shabbat dinner, and that is something, again, new to me. I was like, I don't know what that is. I've never done that. That's weird. It has become such a fun part of our life and our week. And so we have a whole, like, friends coming over, their whole family's coming over for dinner for Shabbat tonight. So it's the middle of summer. So like, we're going to make burgers today. We're going to, they're bringing dessert and some sides, and we're making just like burgers and hot dogs and a grill out. But once we do Shabbat with them, like, what's interesting is that the mother lights the candle, and April Pryor is the one who taught me this. The reason the mother lights the candle, and it is to signify, because the mother is often the one whose work is within the home. Whether you work in and out of the home, there's so much of the home tasks that the mother shoulders. So she lights it to signify she is also choosing to rest. It's not just everybody else gets to rest and she still has to keep on with her jobs. She is the one lighting it and saying, I'm at rest. And so the candle, they light that evening for dinner, and then they blow it out at night, and then they light it again the next morning. So it's lit the whole day. And in their family, they've chosen a scent so that the kids even like that smell signifies like this is Sabbath, like, which is kind of cool. Anyway, so the mother lights the candle, but for once we do that, like I'm done. The kids help clean up dinner. We make it as easy as possible. We'll probably like do a campfire tomorrow night or tonight. It's tonight.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll.
And you have a lot of fun, and we do great desserts. Like, it should be the best dessert of the week.
Yeah. But you look for like the kids are so looking forward to it. It's like, you just know it's like having a big party every Friday night, but without all the entertaining and without all the like burden of making this look so fancy and all of this on you.
And when we started, we were buying, Chick-fil-A and the thing we say is start easy, use paper plates. Like, don't make this a burden on yourselves. Make this and that's the same thing throughout all of Saturday. Like, use paper plates, have your meals already planned. We'll usually do leftovers for all day Saturday so that we already have everything prepared and ready, reheating, doing things like that so that we're not constantly, it's not back to the grind of, remember, it's soul rest. And you might have soul rest by cooking.
That's what I was just going to say. There are people that are like, what, huh? Like, I love to cook. Then cook.
And maybe the rest for you is you just need to get the kids out of the kitchen, and your spouse takes the kids and goes and has fun at a park or something, while you're the one who's left alone to do the cooking by yourself. And that's soul rest for you. You have to find what brings you soul rest on a Saturday. Like, for me, laying around and watching television is the biggest waste of my life. Like, awful. I just want to shrivel up and like.
But I think that's what most people would think Sabbath is like, I have to like read a book all day or like watch a show or something, because I'm not supposed to do stuff. And it's not that. It's that think about the way the Jewish culture, like everything they did was physical labor. Like, they walked everywhere. Everything was so physically taxing. The opposite is true of our culture. Most of our culture now, we work with our minds, and so create things, or very task oriented. So what we're trying to do is the opposite of what we do on the normal days of the week. So for us, that is like no computers, no emails, no work in that sense. But what it might look like for us is like building something with our hands, because we don't do that for a job. It might mean for Josh.
Like for me, I'll say this, like there's times where I will actually mow the lawn on a Saturday because I know that I can put in headphones, I can listen to a podcast, I can listen to worship music, I can pray, I can, it's just meditation time with the Lord, just me and the Lord. And I can do that. I know that after about an hour and a half of weed whacking, mowing, that type of thing, I can do it for up to about an hour and a half. If I start to go over an hour and a half, I know it's starting to get to feel like work for me. And so I know where to shut it off to where, okay, I've rested, I've gotten something done, I've rested, but now I've got to shut it down. And I think that's the same thing for each of us, is finding the thing that will bring you life and bring your family life during that particular day. Yeah. I think one thing we should do, because we're talking about the day, I think we should also, we're kind of talking between the Shabbat dinner on Friday night and the day. Let's finish the day, and then we'll go back and finish. Maybe we can go back and talk about some of the dinner.
But so let me just tell you, I'll just say like literally what we're doing tomorrow. Okay. So tomorrow, this is going to sound a little bit fancy, and I'm really not fancy. But we've just been through a ton lately, and I was like, I haven't taken care of my body or like myself. And so I was like, I'd really like to get a facial.
Say that a little bit louder.
Oh, sorry.
You were whispering.
I'll start it again.
No, do it. Just.
Really?
Yeah, you're whispering.
Oh.
You're so soft-spoken.
Sorry. I've been told that so many times. Okay, but I'm getting a facial tomorrow in the morning, and I'm so excited because it's been over a year since I've been there. But so that's part of my Sabbath. I'm going to go get a facial, which is so fun. So I'm so looking forward to that. And then when I get back, Josh and Kennedy are going on a date. So they're going to go on a little coffee date. And they've been like, they do these like, they color and draw together. You don't color, you draw.
We draw pictures.
They draw together. And so they're going to a local coffee shop, and then they're going to...
And partially because we are looking at, we will do this often where we look at which child needs more one-on-one time than any of the others. So when you have multiple children, a lot of times they don't get as much one-on-one with each individual parent. And so we will identify from week to week kind of who's the one child who really needs more of one-on-one time with us. And so that's another way that we do that. And so
you're going to take Kennedy, and then when you guys get back, I'm going to take Landon, because Landon and I haven't been on a date in a little bit. So we're going to go, and he's already excited about that and telling me like what he wants to do. And so, and then we'll come home, put Micah down for a nap. And then when he naps, I'm probably going to nap, or I might read a book, and then I usually fall asleep and nap. But that's like our actual, it's like we can all rest, because Micah, whom we love and adore, but is very, very 3, will be napping.
Not free, he's 3.
He's 3. And he's potty trained. Did we say that?
He's potty trained.
He just potty trained. He just turned 3. He just potty trained.
Peeing everywhere. It's awesome.
It's like they were at Sonic last night. He peed in the playground on Sonic because he thought it was like, I'm outside.
And you just go.
Anyway, it's great. I'm so proud of him. He's done so great. But so then we'll take a nap, and then we're going to do an indoor movie. So we put up our big like movie projector screen inside, and do like popcorn with usually like chocolate or candy in it, and then watch a movie during the day because Micah can't stay awake for a movie at night. And then what did we decide we're going to do for dinner? I don't know that we decided.
Salmon.
Oh yeah, salmon. We're going to make dinner actually, because we've been gone a lot.
And it's easy and it's good.
Yeah. And so we were going to take the kids up to Nashville, for like to go out for dinner. And I was like, I think
that didn't feel like rest.
No, it
was my idea, and it didn't feel like rest.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's like and then we'll end the night. We'll probably put the kids to bed a little bit earlier so that we can just have some time and have like maybe we'll do like a fire and
our rhythm, by the way, too, like Jeremy and April, their rhythm is that they end their Sabbath with date night, just the 2 of them. Mm-hmm. All their kids are older now though, so they can do that. For us, we do our date night on Thursday night, and then Janae comes and she watches the kids for us. And so we have the rhythm of a date night on Thursday, and we try to get a little bit more of a date on Saturday after the kids are in bed, but a lot of times that doesn't work because we're just usually falling asleep at 9:00 anyway. But we,
real.
The thing that I would encourage you guys to think about and do is you can imagine maybe like a 12-hour day on your Sabbath day, and block it into times of 3 hours, or every 3 hours. So four blocks of 3 hours. And you might identify where you've got, you wake up in the morning and one of you gets a time by themselves. Christy's going tomorrow for a facial. So one of you gets time by themselves.
And I'm guessing,
the other
I didn't
one takes
say,
the kids.
You'll probably work out during that time.
It depends.
Right. But you'll want to work out tomorrow.
I will want to work out tomorrow.
Because that's something that's
I'll have to figure out where that is.
Well, you can work out with the kids. I mean, they'll just...
It's not really
not really
as good as
Micah
working out by
tries
myself,
to participate, which is bless him. He
stands right where I lift my dumbbell. So it's like if I have to be so careful that I'm not whacking him in the face with a 30-pound dumbbell. It's like
he's trying to be like Dad. It's so cute.
So I am 3-hour time blocks. It might be that you go by yourself. The next block, your spouse goes by him or herself. You then come together as a family and you have dinner, and then you end it with a family movie night, or you end it with, generally speaking, you might not have as big of 3-hour blocks. It might be, we're probably a little bit more like 2 hours, every 2 hours or so, but just figure out what works for you. Put it into blocks where and every week's going to look probably different, and you're not going to get it right, but you're always going to be looking back at what didn't work and what did work, and always making tweaks.
I think that's what's great is like the hope is like, okay, cool, that worked, or like that took more from me than I thought, or that wasn't really that restful or fun, or okay, so let's try this next time. It's not like you have to get this right away, because you won't. There's no way you will. And I just think there's such hope in the fact that like I can make this whatever I want it to be. Like God has made you uniquely. And that is like, some people want to go hiking. Some people want to like go to Lowe's and pick out flowers.
And for many years we were on the lake. I mean, you guys know this if you've listened to us for a long time. I mean, we were really lake people. We loved being on the lake, and that's what we would go do. and we're not
Most
there now.
Saturdays, yeah.
But that's where we were. And so, and some of the questions I get with this, and I'm going to just answer a couple questions that I get frequently as it relates to this is, our kids are in sports, we can't necessarily do this on Saturdays because, of all of these things. And I would say, okay, so maybe do it Sunday. We don't do it Sunday because we're at church, we serve at our church, and we're already ready to ramp up for the week. So there's already a lot of things happening. So we use that as ramp up Sunday.
And I will say too, like, our weeks are so full that like by Saturday I need a rest. I'm not ready to just go tackle like home projects or something. And I think that, can I just say that too? I think that's true for more people than we want to admit. Like, especially for those that work outside of the home, you have just been crushing it like all week outside your home. And then to just come back, and wake up on a Saturday and be like, oh, I gotta do this and mow the grass or whatever things that feel, again, not life-giving, but heavy. And you're like, well, I got to do this because it's Saturday and, this is my one day. I would just maybe allow a little bit of curiosity. Like, could there be another way? Because what your body's probably saying is, I'm really tired. And what if you actually could look forward to a day? And then, Sunday, if you want to pick in the afternoon, if you're at church on Sunday mornings and then Sunday afternoons, at least we find there's just not a lot happening anyway. And yet it's not super restful because we've already had to be at church, get the kids right, serve, we're doing all our things. By the time we get home, it's like mid-afternoon for us. And that's sort of the day. It's kind of gone. And then that's a perfect time for us. We do like clean sheet day and, get ready for the week. And that feels, again, that's our rhythm. And I'm not trying to put our rhythm on anyone else. But we've just found the more families we talk to, it's for a lot anyway, it's a more natural rhythm because the work week is Monday to Friday.
And that's for people whose work week is a Monday to a Friday.
Right.
The other question we get is, we both work
shift work
and that type of thing, and we can't really figure that out. Here's my thing. Find the rhythm that works for your family. What works for you guys? And maybe you do both work where your off days are not the same day. Well, then have a day that your off day is your Sabbath as best that you possibly can. I think what we end up trying to do, or I think our culture is so set against us that even the Saturday busyness of kids going to sports and activities and things like that, I think at some point you have to go, because here's the reality. Sabbath is a gift. There is no question that Sabbath is a gift. And I say that because every single person on that stage said, what was the one rhythm you wish you would have started sooner? Everybody says Sabbath. Because when you actually start to get into a rhythm of rest, it changes your family. It really does. And I think our culture has us so on a rat race, on the hamster wheel, that we don't know any other way.
Yeah.
And it is a neurobiological wiring of our brain to have to think that there is a different way. And I'm not saying you need to pull your kids out of sports. Maybe you do. Maybe it is time to start looking and going, is this really serving our family, or are we serving individuals within the family that's causing disintegration in our family? Or is it that, no, we are a sports family. We will be doing these things. Our kids love it. It does bring us together. We have community in it. Then great. Then find a way to not be adding a whole bunch of other things to your Saturday, where maybe you're driving kids to the practice and then you're coming home and mowing the grass. And then you're doing X, Y, Z. Create a Sabbath around the things that bring you life. That is the key here. It's creating and cultivating a restful day and then defending that rhythm. And
what came to me when I was like, it's like maybe your Sabbath starts at like 4:00 on a Saturday and it goes till 4:00 on a Sunday.
And it goes to 4 on a Sunday.
Because your
make
games
it work
are over.
For you.
I think what we experience, people get super defensive when they've not done this, and it's like, that doesn't work for me. So then they just ex-nay it all together as if like that's not possible. Right. And I just want to push back on that. There is a way for this to be, for you to receive the gift. And I think that's all it is. Ask the Lord, like Holy Spirit, like how are we to receive this as a gift? He is giving it to you as a gift. And if you're the one choosing not to receive it, that's on you. That's not on God. And so I would ask, like, how are we meant to receive this? And watch him walk it out for you, and notice, like, oh, maybe we need to not do this because this it eliminates a window of time for us to rest, and to just know, like, we can choose to receive it or we can choose to reject it, but that's on us. That's our responsibility, really, is the best word maybe I could come up with. And I'm not saying that to even condemn or accuse in any way. I just know I've walked with so many friends. It was me too. Like,
I was gonna say it was you. You were this person.
I was like, no, that doesn't work. I don't understand how that's possible. Birthday party. I mean, all the questions, right? We get all the time. I was that person too. Like, that's not I was the mom who was like, I know how how our family works, and that's not going to work within our family. Until I think it was like a surrender where I was like, maybe I have to surrender. It's like, lose your life to find it, and try to preserve your life and you'll lose it. I mean, it really was that dynamic of like, a seed must die before it can bear fruit. And it was a dying to my ideas and myself of even the way I was raised. Like, I was raised in a sports family. I played volleyball competitively my entire career. I played Division I college volleyball. That's all I knew, was not just like high school. And then I'd go from high school to travel club practice. I swam. I did all of that. So I'm not judging it. I, in most ways, enjoyed it, but I mourn what I lost because I gave that was our world. And I see the benefits, so it's not like I'm anti in any way. There was so much I loved, and then there was also a lot I lost because of it. And so I just want to find, I think, from those eyes, a healthier balance for my children and our family, in recognizing, like, it's not forever. I went to the highest level without playing professionally, and all I have from it is injuries.
And some memories,
and some sweet memories. Although it feels like it feels like another life. I don't talk about it ever. I don't, I hardly remember it, but I did learn a lot. But I will, I like hold them both with, like, they both have value and honor. And yet I feel like the Lord has pivoted us a different way for our kids. And I'm thankful for what I learned having those experiences.
Until Micah comes along.
That kid loves every
he
ball.
He loves everything balls and sports.
Yeah. And he's good at, like, anything he touches. So, and we realized that's going to be a struggle for us.
A thing. But listening to the Seagulls last week, and if you didn't listen to that interview with them, they made that hard decision too. But again, I think it comes down to the value of our family and what is it that God's calling your family to? And that's the key. What is God calling your family to? And then just looking and going, okay, where will we most find rest? And a lot of us, you might find rest on a Monday because that's your work schedule. I mean, a lot of pastors have to do Sabbath during the week because their weekends are full of prep and preaching and serving and loving on people. And so make it work for you. I do want to go back and look at Friday night's dinner, the Shabbat dinner, and because it does open, as Christi said, with a prayer that the mother prays, and we'll put this template out there for you guys to be able to take a look at and download as well. And there's a prayer, and then there's a prayer. There's a couple other prayers. One of those is I was trying to think through.
You've said there's a prayer.
Oh, it was a prayer, and then there's another prayer, and then another prayer.
Sorry.
And you just pray the whole time. I mean, it's just, are you praying enough? No, I'm just kidding. So there's the opening prayer from the mother who lights the candle, which I think is a fascinating. There's a fascinating significance to that. It was awesome because 3 weeks ago now, we were with my parents and my grandparents in Pennsylvania visiting up there, and we did Shabbat at my mom's house, and this was the first time we did it with my family. My mom got to light the candle. My grandfather, our kids' great-grandfather, got to read. So the oldest father reads the blessing over the sons and prays the blessing over the sons, all the sons, all the generations in the family. The oldest mother, so my grandmother, got to pray over all of the children, all the women, all the daughters. And then my stepdad got to pray the blessing over the meal as the head of the home. And so everyone there had a role. All the elders had a role, and it was so sweet. Just my grandfather's choking up while he's praying, and it was just such a sweet thing. Cool. But that's kind of that's what the template really is. And then you sing Shabbat Shalom. Our kids love singing Shabbat Shalom. And then from there on, it's just a free and fun night. It's just we honor the rest that God has given us and the gift of Sabbath that He's given us, and we just have a lot of fun.
I think what's been so cool is watching how much the kids are super pumped to have friends come over for dinner anytime. But tonight it was like, they're coming for Shabbat. Like, it's like, oh, that's even better. It's like the next level up. And I just don't think we celebrate really well in our culture. Like, I mean, it's like having a wedding to go to every Friday night, but like way more low key, but just as fun, I think. And, we watched it done with the Priors, with their older kids, and just to see what that would look like as they're older. I mean, they're like blasting the music and all the kids are cleaning up and they're like, it was just fun to watch these like teens, 20 somethings. There's a culture, there's an environment of the home that's just beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. And that's, and that's a great segue, because that's what we're talking about over these next couple of weeks. Cause a lot of the questions you guys are asking is how we cultivate the environment of our home. And it's essentially kind of what's coming up over these next couple of weeks are different ways that we cultivate the environment of the home. And I think, Shabbat and Sabbath, I think, is the core of that. That's why we started here. Well, I think it's the beginning. I think it's necessary to set a new rhythm, because otherwise the world's going to set one for you, which has no rhythm. And I think we've talked about this on the podcast, but if you've not listened to it before, like, you will go insane if every day is different. Like, if you have no rhythm to your life, it's just like you wake up, nobody knows what it's going to look like. Every day is different. You will go crazy. If every day is the same, like Groundhog Day, you will go crazy. But when there is a rhythm, and all the research has shown, over history, they've tried to do 10-day weeks and basically drove people crazy. And the 7-day, there's something about the 7-day week the Lord created in 7 days. And it is what we're made for, this rhythm, just as, seasons come and go. It's this beautiful rhythm that I just think is created into our DNA. And so to have a day that, again, we're not like surviving the week to get to, but it starts on that day. Like, rest is where we're founded. It's how we were created. And then we get to work out of the overflow of what that rest has filled up in us. And we just pour out through the week, and then we fill back up. And that rhythm alone, I think that's why everyone on the panel said Sabbath. That's what changed everything.
And I think, as you've listened to us, for those of you who've listened to us through the years, you know that we ground everything that we do in our podcast through research. I love particularly studying research on emotional safety, emotional intelligence, how we discipline, how we shape our kids, childhood development, those types of things. But I think what you're seeing with Famous at Home, and even how we're leading our family, is that we can talk about these things. And I think there's something really, really important that, even as Peter Scazzaro talks about, you can only be as spiritually mature. You can only be as emotionally mature as you are spiritually mature, right? Like, those two go hand in hand. And that's so critically important. But we can't separate those. You cannot separate those two things. And so we will continue, and we do continue to talk about, obviously with my kids' EQ and things like that. Like, we are talking about emotional intelligence, we're talking about those things. But I think even more than those things, and this is the experiment that we're living out, is understanding what does it look like to live a true biblical household? What does the Bible describe the household to look like? And how can we live that household in the Western culture that we find ourselves in? Because it is so difficult to separate ourselves from the Western culture that we do live in. We are a part of it. It is interwoven and we are threaded into it. It is threaded into us. We are so interwoven with it that I think we have to begin to undo some of the threads. It's not that you're just completely, ripping the garments apart and you're, all of a sudden divorced from the Western culture you find yourself in. We'll never be completely divorced from the Western culture we find ourselves in if you live in that culture. But what we can do is we can begin to combat anxiety, depression, the struggles that we are facing in our culture with screen time and these types of things. How do we attack or how do we face some of these things in a new way, in a different way? And I think there's a rootedness, there's a foundational thing. Rather than just dealing with the symptoms, what if we dealt with the root of the issue? And I think dealing with the root of the issue is getting back to biblical roots of how we were created and designed to live in a household. And that takes some unthreading. It takes little bits of unthreading. And I feel like we have been unthreading through the years, just here and there. And if you've joined us, if you've been listening for many, many years, I think you have seen some of these, you've watched us start to unthread certain things. I mean, even going back, I'm going to go back to the Joshua Becker episode that we did 1.5 years or 2 years ago now. Like this biblical simplicity, that changed how we started viewing material possessions and simplicity in our home and those types of things. And so I think as you've been journeying with us, you're starting to see some of those, some of that unthreading. And that's part of what this is. We have fought hard. Yeah. We have warred hard to cultivate an environment in our home that we believe feels peaceful, that we believe feels restful. Now, are there moments of chaos and overwhelm? And absolutely. Is there warfare to this? Absolutely. But we are constantly warring for and fighting for an environment of peace, an environment of rest, an environment of simplicity, an environment of hospitality, an environment of adventure. These are what we are fighting for in our home. And what we're talking about over these next couple of weeks, starting with Sabbath, are some of the practical ways that we have warred for these things in our home. And I believe these are the foundational issues we need to be addressing in order to change how we do family, how we live the household, and how the household is ultimately used by God to build the kingdom of God.
True. Yeah. You just said it.
With that, leave us some reviews, leave us some questions, leave us some feedback. We want to hear from you. This is these next couple of weeks are interactions with you guys as it relates to what we are talking about and questions you have, kickback, disagreements you have. We can't make this work because of X, Y, and Z. Let us know. We want to be able to interact with you guys and continually address some of these on the podcast, do some Q&A episodes, that type of thing. So please leave us a review, leave us questions, leave us topic ideas, famousathome.com/podcast. And until next week, keep in mind that the greatest red carpet you will walk is through your front door.
Keep being famous at home. We love you.